Was this property their everything? Was this property the only thing that they have in life, right? That means so much to them.
In my opinion, the number one reason why sales don't happen is lack of information. Welcome back to part 2 with Christos. If you haven't checked out part 1, be sure to watch it, where we talk about how he got started in the customer experience industry and working at Disney. In part 2, we're going to get into IQ and EQ and the difference and how that relates to sales. So without further ado, let's get into it. Last time you came in and you explained and you talked about IQ and EQ and how EQ is more related to sales. And I just wanted you to kind of explain that. Both I'm really curious about your perception of EQ and how to apply that to any business role or sales role. IQ is very important, as we all know, but I think EQ has a whole new element, especially in the industry that we're in. So I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on that.
Sure. I love talking about this because, so I'm 46 years old, and years ago, I remember when I was 19, 20, 21, I would hear people constantly say, wow, that person has a high IQ, high IQ, high IQ. And it was like, whoa, that's great. That's great. I think today, I feel personally that it's equal, if not more important, that we have a high EQ, or emotional quotient, otherwise known as emotional intelligence. Now, from the research that I've done and I've learned, listen, to have a high IQ is amazing, right? You're able to think on a different level. You're able to compute on a different level. You're able to analyze on a different level. But from the research that I've done, the higher someone has, the higher IQ they have, the less connectable they are with people.
I would agree. 100%.
Totally agree with you.
I've personally experienced that. After doing research, I was like, oh, I know, and I've met some really high IQ people in my life, and they're amazing at what they do. But they actually have a harder time connecting with people. They just do. And I think in sales, when you're able to connect with someone and they know and understand you, and you know and understand them, and they feel seen and heard, and mostly understood, when it's time for the actual sale, it should come pretty naturally, as long as you're competent in that field, right? Because I feel selling isn't really about convincing. I think selling is about assisting. If you're in need of something, and I'm able to help you and I'm competent in that field, and you have some type of emotional connection with them, they should use you, right? But how do you build that emotional connection? Right. Now, there's a few different parts that fall under emotional intelligence. One of them being self-awareness. Right. Are you self-aware? Do you know and are you aware of how your feelings and behaviors interact with the environment? Has anyone ever told you, someone close to you, not someone that doesn't know you, right? That just had a first impression of you. We all have had first impressions of things, and we thought of a way of a certain person, and not necessarily was the truth because they were off a little bit. But someone close to you would let you know, hey, listen, you come across a certain way. When I was in my late 20s, so I love to talk. I'm extroverted. And I was told by someone pretty close to me that I talk too much and that I interrupt a lot. And it destroyed me. I wasn't mature enough to handle the feedback. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to be able to accept feedback. Long time. And into my 30s, well into my 30s, I couldn't accept feedback. And that's not me. That's a me problem, right? That's something that I had to figure out. And being self-aware. Now, I was the president of the Master Interruption Club. I was the president, right? I think I'm currently the vice president and trying to constantly get out of there. And it's not that I'm not interested in what you have to say. I'm really interested in what you have to say. I'm just excited to talk to you. I'm excited to like hear you. Like I'm excited to tell you what's going on in my life. So and I don't mean to, but it doesn't matter that I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm still interrupting you, right? So I think really being aware of yourself and really how you come across is really important. The second piece to emotional intelligence is empathy. I think it's one of the biggest skills anyone should have, especially a leader, especially knowing and understanding how your actions make someone else feel. Right? I think it's really, really important that you really know how your actions made them feel. The third piece of emotional intelligence is social cues, right? Being able to read social cues, right? If you're having a conversation with someone, they've looked at their watch a couple times. They're actually not necessarily honestly doing that because they're looking at the time. It's just something that we subconscious do when we're bored or we don't want to be in something, right? So if you pick that up, right, or they're just putting their head down while you're talking to them, guess what? They probably don't want to have a conversation with you, or they're done talking to you. So I think it's really important to know that. The fourth piece to emotional intelligence is motivation, right? The motivation for you to want to become better in every aspect of your life, right? Wanting to be better and self-awareness and everything, right? And the last piece of emotional intelligence is self-regulation, right? This is a big one. How do you regulate your negative emotions? We all have them, right? We all have them, and they have to come out at some point, right? So whether you go to the gym or you run or you have a punching bag or you go to the gym or whatever, they have to come out. And if they don't come out, if you don't control them, they're going to come out in the most inopportune times, right? When someone says something that sets you off, or some of those people, right? They have 2 shots of tequila. All of a sudden, they're climbing a tree here. What is going on, right? It has to come out in some aspect, right? So some people are like, oh, no, I don't have that. No, you do have them. We're all human beings. We're not machines. Get them out, right? Know and understand yourself. Because a lot of people, so there's a study that 85% of people think they're self-aware. 96% of people are not self-aware.
Ooh.
Wow. That's crazy.
Like, when I read that, when I learned that, I was like, as soon as you think, you're like, oh, I'm really self-aware, you're not, right? When I do this class, right? When I do this and I ask people, I go, hey, listen, in the audience, who thinks they're self-aware? The people that shoot their hand up before I'm done talking, all the way up, are the least self-aware. They just naturally are. And after I meet some of them, I'm like, yeah, they're not. Some people, as soon as they say it, they go to put their hand up and they go, I thought I was. But you just asked it. Am I really self-aware and truly know and understand how my feelings and behaviors interact with other people? Right? So that's, the biggest thing, that has to do with emotional intelligence. And there's studies out there, and now these are perspectives, right? Now, are we more intellectually competent as people, or are we more emotionally competent?
So,
right? I want to know the answer.
Right? I mean,
is there an answer?
I can give you perspectives from things that I study and I read, and I've learned. What do you all think?
I think people probably think that they're more emotionally intelligent, but in reality, maybe it's intellectual.
I think it is harder to be more emotionally intelligent than it is to have a higher IQ. So my answer would be I think generally speaking, people will have a higher IQ and not a higher EQ.
I agree.
So I feel that we as human beings are a lot more emotionally competent than we are intellectually competent.
Okay.
I think it's a lot easier to crank up the intensity of our emotions.
You just can't get smarter.
I was just going to, the next thing I was going to say,
smart, yeah.
Do you have the ability to crank up the intensity of your intellect?
And
I'm not saying that you can't.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and I'm not, there's some people in the world that could really increase their intellect, right? They're probably, you can count them on a couple of your hands only, right? Really, really increase it. But I think emotionally you could really increase and know and learn about yourself a lot faster. So, that's one thought. And that's what I feel.
Yeah.
How would you suggest people become more aware of their surroundings
That's
and
what I was going to say.
of themselves?
I think being able to talk to their closest circle, their friends and family, and be able to ask them. Because that's hard. Like I said, it took me a long time to be able to be like, I would like to get some feedback on how you think I come across in terms of this, and this. Do I come across pompous? Do I come across this? I can tell you this, as my engagements became bigger, and as I started being on bigger stages, and as I started charging, in some cases, I started charging, well into the 5 figures to speak. Guess what? I got to meet someone that I've never met before. I met my ego. And this guy came out swinging, right? Because all of a sudden, I'm charging X amount of money to be on stages, to speak for groups and to speak for people. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm amazing. I'm amazing. And I realized that, not when I was on stage, I realized that during a couple of my recordings. I looked at my recordings and I was really upset with the way I was coming across. Being confident and bold is a really good thing to do when you're speaking, right? You have to know your subject. You have to understand and really believe what you're saying. But you can't be cocky. You're cocky. There's no one that's going to want to be around you, meet with you, have a personal or professional relationship with you. And I started to actually be a little bit cocky. But guess what? There's a lot of people out there that are like that. I'm so happy that I watched that recording and I realized that I can't be like that. And I'm a human being. All this can be taken away in a heartbeat. No one can ever hire me again, right? So I needed to realize, be like, I'm very lucky that I'm on there. I feel very lucky that I've met some great people that have helped me be on these big stages and speak in front of these companies on the subject that I speak on. But I can never take it for granted. And I have to really know and understand that having an ego is real. And I had to battle it for a little bit. And I'm sure I'll still battle it. As I grow and stuff like that, I'll have to make sure that no one ever sees him.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, so first of all, I think that friend probably did a service for you at the end of the day.
Big time.
Because now Mike and I have to go out and ask all of our friends how we actually come across. I think I am good at taking feedback, so I would appreciate people's honest feedback, and maybe I will go out and ask for it now. Yeah. But I kind of have an interesting question for you. Mm-hmm. So dialing this back to like the real estate space that we're in, I just hired somebody. He's awesome. Rashawn, if you're listening, he's awesome. He had a really tough call the other day where the guy treated him like absolute garbage from start to finish. He regrettably, and he apologized for it, did not reciprocate well. He sort of pushed back a little bit, and the person who he spoke with ended up contacting me and said, this person did this, this, and this. Sure. I, right off the bat, whether that's true or not, I know that the person who contacted me for sure treated Rashawn like hell, right? Like Rashawn would not have gone out and just said X, Y, and Z to this person without being prompted, right? So like, I guess my question is like, when you're on the phone with somebody and like, you're doing a cold call, let's say, and you have literally very, very little time to sort of anticipate what's going to be said, like read the room, read this person, read, how they're speaking to you and all these things. Like, are you going to, in essence, be taking the 5 things you just listed, like second one on this phone call? Are you taking all your skills and being like, okay, I'm going to disarm this person. I'm going to sort of lower my voice. I'm going to talk calmly. I'm like, I totally understand, where you're coming from. I'm really sorry you feel this way. Let me explain to you, why, I sent you this quote or offered this price for your property that you got so upset at? Like, is that something that he should have done?
So I can tell you this. The way that your client reacted, was it something that you and your team did to warrant that? Or do you feel that there was nothing that your team did that was out of line that warranted it? And then I'll tell you an answer.
The reason why he reacted this way was because what we were offering him for his property was just so below what he thought it was worth. It was insulting.
Okay. So I think in this case, knowing and understanding where they come from, knowing and understanding why was it such a big shock to this person? Was this property their everything? Was this property the only thing that they have in life, right? That means so much to them, right? That's the way they reacted. So you could have just been, and listen, we're in the world of business. I'm going to make you an offer, nothing personal. I make you an offer, and I'm going to try to get it for the best price I possibly can. If they took it so offensively, that you have to understand there's a reason that they acted like that, right? What's the reason? Do you know them well enough or do you not know them well enough? From our end, we have to make sure that we have to make sure that we put ourselves in their shoes, right? And as soon as they started talking and as soon as you feel yourself changing, you might want to be like, let me give you a call back. All right? Because the last thing we do, I'm 46 years old, the last thing that I ever want to do is have any regrets, right? I'm hoping that I don't have them moving forward, right? In saying something and doing something, right? So I think taking a moment to be like, let me see as to why we offered you this price. Give me a second. Even if it's just an excuse to get off the phone. Because now, this person, when they called you, they didn't tell you that they reacted a certain way. They just told you how your person reacted, right? But obviously, your person's not just going to react for no reason, right? So I think learning in this situation, this happens to me all the time. There's some people that, a year ago when I was quoting people, I go, this is my price and they were like, that's ridiculous. I would never pay you this much money for you to come. Wow. And then I'm just like, right? And I'm like, I have, this experience. I've done this. I've helped organizations look at things different. But I can't be like that, right? And if I feel myself doing that, like, I have to figure out a way that I have no regrets in speaking to these people. These are some large corporations that I'm speaking to, right? And if someone comes at me like that, it might even be a test. It might be a test to be able to test me and be like, well, if you're talking to us about emotional intelligence, looks like you don't have any, right? How am I going to respond to that, right? So I have to be able to respond to that in a very calm manner and be able to think. I've been challenged in the middle of my talks by some people, and I've had to really think. I can't come back and just start fighting. I have to think. They're asking that reason. They're asking that question for a reason. So again, my long-winded answer to your question.
In my opinion, the number one reason why sales don't happen is lack of information. In Rashawn's example, he may not have done a great job of explaining why to this person who's obviously emotionally attached to this property, maybe they've lived there their entire life, why it's worth what we're offering. It's, this is my price and here are the reasons why. And you could show proof of that. For when you're pitching new Fortune 500 companies, your expertise, here's my price and here are the reasons why, right? When I'm trying to go get a listing and explain the price, everyone's emotionally attached to it. But here's why this is the price that makes sense. Maybe we can get more, but I think we should start here and create a demand. Maybe I can offer you more on that property I just offered cash for, but maybe I can offer you more if I come and see it in person, then get an in-person meeting. Maybe you're willing to pay that if I can, offer you some sort of other services. So I think lack of information is, in my opinion, the number one reason why sales don't get completed.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Thank you so much for listening to Sky's the Limit podcast. We're always releasing new content, so if there's something you want to hear, be sure to comment below. And don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. And just remember, sky's the limit, dive deep, and invest in how you want to live.